get through this.
Easy for listening. I was able to do it. Easy for dancing. I'm not a great lover of cats. That's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are.
Not me. That's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are. Hello and welcome in another episode of Have Your Say, Shadowboxing. Today my guest in WTV studios, Dr. Michael McKibben. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
Michael is a chiropractor, probably, of 50 years of experience.
50 years. Yep.
But make it sure, you are not a medical doctor, Michael, are you?
No, absolutely not.
You're a doctor of chiropractic.
True.
Michael, tell us something what is chiropractic mean.
Okay, in simple terms,
Yes?
the bone gets out of place and loses movement, irritates the nerve and changes the way the master control and coordinating system works. So wherever the spinal nerves go may be altered by the way that functions. Some things are much more common than others and some are very rare.
So that's affecting all our life, all aspects of our life, if something is out of the
Yeah,
right,
many
out
different
of the
ways,
jones.
yeah.
So, Michael, you are born in WA or?
No, I was raised in Ballarat in Victoria and we enjoyed ample supply of rain there and I really enjoy Perth. It's just bloody marvellous. It's a great place to be.
And Michael, how do you get into chiropractic?
Car accident, extreme fatigue, on the point of fainting all the time. And I went to the doctor, waste of time, but a good bloke. He was a member of our church and a fellow who I thought was a pretty good fella. And, but all he did was try to treat the symptoms and couldn't figure out what the cause was. And somebody said, why don't you go and see a chiropractor? And I did, and the remarkable result I had was the symptoms cleared up.
And where have you seen that chiropractor?
Over in Ballarat.
In Ballarat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you decided that's something which may interest you
Yeah.
to get your hands on patient and treat them?
What it was he said that he worked with the power that made the body and heals the body. He was the servant, not the master. Yeah. And
Yes.
the idea of being able to spend a lifetime doing that with the type of results that I had was really interesting. I interviewed a lot of his patients and found out whether they were doing any good or not. And then I went back and told the GP, he was a member of our church, that we'd had very satisfactory outcomes. He blew me up, was really aggravated about it, and said chiropractic was baloney, that
Yes.
they believed in a universal intelligence, an innate intelligence, and that the power that made the body heals the body. Well, I thought to myself, I've never met a medical doctor who can cure a corpse. If the power ain't there, it's not going to work.
Yes,
Yeah?
that sounds logical, Michael. So where you learned your trade?
I went to the trade school of Davenport, Iowa.
To the very school where chiropractic has been invented
Yes,
120 years
absolutely
ago.
great place to go at that time. It was the end of the era when they were jailing chiropractors. So to go and get sit in on a course where you were told how to stay out of jail was very interesting. Yeah, it was really
And
good.
then when you graduated at there, what was the next step?
Well, I worked briefly for a time with a chiropractor, and then a friend of mine had come to WA, and they'd recently registered chiropractors in around '66, and it was a very good place to come to. So I came and set up, and I've been pretty well in the same area for 50 years.
Where is the area you're working
I
from?
work in Atterdale.
Atterdale. So
Yeah.
you got your clinic in Atterdale for
Yes.
almost 50 years.
Well,
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I still enjoy it.
That's very good to hear.
Yeah.
So what is the ins and outs of chiropractic? You got some of these things on
Okay.
the table. Tell us something. How does it work?
Everybody's got a spine, and it does far more than keep your brains away
Some
from
of
your
the
backside.
politicians not.
No, spineless, yes. And if I may, there's a vertebra, a disc, a vertebra, and nerves come out between. We're supposed to stay in good shape and keep a fat and happy disc. Can you pass me that, please?
Yes,
If
Michael.
the central substance of the disc, called a nucleus pulposus, comes under excessive duress because the joints lock up at the back and it carries weight in the wrong way. It doesn't last as long as it should. So they deteriorate, and as they deteriorate more and more, the spine becomes less functional. Now, there was no WorkSafe in the 60s.
Yes.
The Italian fishermen, the Yugoslav market gardeners, nose down, tail up all day long. The woman said to me, she put her back out throwing a bag of spuds on a truck. And I said, what layer? And she said, second layer. One woman on her own. They worked very, very hard. And those people had this sort of thing. Well, nowadays that doesn't happen.
So that is a damage, physical damage.
Bad damage.
In physical damage.
Yeah, physical damage.
In the spine. Yes?
And when WorkSafe came in and all of the lifting devices, this generation of people don't have that. I would see far more people with emotional stress-related disorders than I would from extreme heavy lifting. Yeah.
So how the emotional stress-related disorder is getting to the chiropractic or with the spine? Is there any connection on that?
Oh, absolutely.
What is it?
Okay, the individual gets tense because of stress, and the stress tightens the neck, upper back, and if it's really bad, they can feel it all the way down their lower back. They'll come in and tell you, I can feel that's gone all tight and in spasm. The dogs I adjust that come from dog refuge, who have been through a rough time, when you palpate their spine, they're also quite tense, and after they're adjusted a few times, it relaxes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But humans are like that,
yep.
And dogs are like that.
But the same principle.
Same principle, yeah.
So if someone is go to your clinic and say, I got all this pain in the back and around my shoulder, so that means it's stress, as you said, right. What can you do? Okay,
I can locate and adjust the where the joints are locked up, and the person can feel relief from that. But say the mother's got two kids, one's a drug dealer, the other one's on meth, and there's heaps and heaps of problems, yeah? I can't solve that. Yeah. So I can
the stress will stay, but the pain may relax a little bit.
Yeah, I can treat the symptoms, not the cause.
Not the cause.
Yeah.
So how can we have stress-free life in the 21st century? How can we live stress-free life?
Well, you get very few people who have total stress. Think of it as a loading on a fail-safe mechanism. Say the power surge was going to come through this building and it was going to blow lights and do damage, but it hits the switch box, the fuse, and that safety mechanism fails, and so the building's protected. Well, the subluxation does the same. The bone gets out of place, loses movement, irritates the nerve, and when it's released, then the symptom diminishes or goes.
You got a few books in here. My favorite is Deadly Medicines and Organized Crime. What made you interested in deadly medicine and organized crime?
Well, go back a bit. I was looking for changes to the way the government handles chiropractic, and I went to meet the Minister for Health, and the liaison between the AMA and the Minister for Health was there. And when I suggested that we should be able to work within public health, he said, you can't do that because of a question of risk. And I'd never thought much about risk. Now, we're talking me being in practice for 40 years or something, and I hadn't thought much about it. So I started to read up on it. I had read where Ivan Illich had written a book in, I think it was 75 or something, that book
That's the first one.
Yep. And he was the one that coined the term iatro, meaning physician, genesis, mean create. Harm arising from medical treatment is distinct from the patient's disorder is called iatrogenesis.
Iatrogenesis.
And everybody I meet says, I don't know what it means.
Never heard.
Because it's not part of the public conversation.
Why is that?
Because the media never talk about it, the politicians never talk about it, and the real problem with it, most people wouldn't have a clue about. Now, I'm not saying societies are dumb, but most people really don't think much about this, and I hadn't. Yeah.
So iatro,
Iatro means physician, genesis means create.
okay, so this iatrogenesis,
Harm arising
what
from medical treatment.
what does it mean in plain layman language?
Harm arising from medical treatment is distinct from the patient's disorder. So say
So
George...
if any medical treatment which is go wrong,
Yeah.
it's part of that phrase
Yeah,
and ends up with death, of course. Is
yes.
it? Yes. So
And
these
there's
are
a
the
whole-
victims of bad practice and bad medicine.
Yeah,
Yes?
yes.
Okay. So that's what we will discuss shortly. But go in to the statistics of Australia. We know one thing for sure is 143,473 people died every year in Australia. It includes all the deaths. And if you're looking at the reason of deaths in Australia, we can discover lots of things involved. Circulatory system, cancer and tumors and accidents and assaults, other internal causes. Then we got nervous systems, which ends up with that. And we got respiratory, digestive, and so on. But I couldn't read that strange word of yours in this list. So you say people dying because of bad medicine and bad treatments. So where are they listed amongst the deaths?
They aren't.
They're not listed.
No.
Why?
Well, this is the funny part, you see. First, I didn't know about iatrogenesis.
Yes.
And so I chased up about that. A fellow by the name of John Archer, an investigative journalist, had published a book called Bad Medicine.
That's in Australia.
Yes.
So
And
that is the book of John Archer's Bad Medicine.
he made the crazy claim that there were 50,000 Australians die per year as a result of medical treatment as distinct from their disorder.
So 50, more than 50,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I rang his publisher and said, I need to talk to John. I got his mobile number and I said, hey, your statistics are over the top, they're too many. And he said, not my statistics, read the references. They're out of medical literature that has to do with harm arising from medical treatment.
So medical literature is dealing with this issue, but the statistics of medicine, not.
No. So
Okay, that's strange. But this book of Bad Medicine by John Archer, been written 20 years ago.
yeah. Well,
Has anything has changed since 20
damn
years?
sight more population, more old people, more people dying. Yeah.
In here, in Australia. And what's happening in the world? Where are we in the world list?
I don't
Or
know.
none of the countries got statistics on that disease?
No. I contacted colleagues in Canada and some officials in America. They can't. I'll tell you why. This is interesting. The World
On
Health...
that note, before you're telling the story, which is very interesting, we're going for a short break.
Yeah.
And after the break, we're coming back with one-on-one shadow boxing. Don't go anywhere because you will learn lots on bad medicine and the organized crime.